So let's jump over here to the snare now. Mute our verbs. Okay. Dry snare drum, low cut around 100, 90 to 100 somewhere. Yeah, 104. All right, here's the EQ. Trying to get rid of this. There's more ringiness in there, but I don't think in the grand scheme it's a huge deal. So that's the EQ I'm going with at the moment. Let's jump in and throw in the compressor. Compressing pretty hard on here, down to about 6 dB, 4:0 ratio, 25 attack time, 10 hold, 20 millisecond release, and 3 dB of makeup gain. All right, with and without those two. Okay, now here's snare bottom. I've got the phase flipped. Let's see what it sounds like. It sounds like a snare bottom. Okay. So I've got our low cut up pretty high. One thing about a snare bottom, I don't want really any of the weight of the drum in it. I just want it for the sizzle. And so that's what we're doing here. So let's turn the CQ on. Want all the weight to come off of the snare top, and then this just to be kind of a brightness mic. Big low shelf, a little cut up above 2K, and then a high boost. And then compress. Compressing it, about 6 dB. Again, attack time all the way down. With this, I want the attack time all the way at 0 because I'm really trying to knock off that initial transient so that we just get the sustain of the drum. That's kind of what I'm going for on this. Don't want a ton of, the initial crack of that because it doesn't really sound all that good. It's a little flabby sounding. And so knocking that off and then trying to release fairly quick to get the sizzle out of there. So here, let's hear those together. It hits pretty hard. All right, pretty happy with that. So now, another thing I did here is actually used this wave designer on here. It's basically a transient shaper of sorts. So on here, I've just gone and I've got it on channel 4 for the snare bottom. So let's hear what it sounds like. I've gone, come on. So attack time on there is at minus 20%. Sustain is at 20%. So knocking off even more of that front end and then raising the sustain of it. It's width. See, I like that a lot. I personally like that a lot. I think that it adds some excitement to it. It really just makes the snare longer, and the longer something is in a mix, the more you'll notice it. And so that's kind of a theory I have, that if something just keeps on lasting in a mix for better or worse, you're going to notice it more because it's just there. And so a lot of times the bigness of a signal isn't actually in just cranking the signal louder and wider and all that. It's just making it a little bit longer in the mix. So that's my head canon, at least at the moment. So let's hear the kick and snare together. I don't hear this talked about enough, honestly, that the relationship between the kick and snare is just it's just one of the most important parts of a mix because your kick is your foundation for your rhythm and then your snare is accenting all of that. And so that relationship needs to be right in the player, in the tuning, in the mix. It's so it's so important to the overall feel of a mix. Like I just can't overstate that. I put it shortly below vocals. You know, vocals are number one. Vocals are king in 99% of mixes, but this is very closely after because it creates the feel for the rest of the mix in a lot of ways. And so you got to get those right. I don't really have a hard and fast number I look for. It's just you go off a feel, you try new things with your volume balance between the two, and just see what really gets that groove going. So, can't overstate that enough, but that sounds good for now. So, let's jump over to Tom 1.